Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my interviews. Now, today we're going to talk to a very interesting man. I had a slightly, I was going to say upsetting, but it wasn't really upsetting at all, but an unusual, I suppose is the right word to say it, experience a few weeks ago in which I was sitting on the edge of my bed. And I've been interested because I've been talking to many people now over the last few months about metaphysics, I suppose, and spirit guides and things of that nature, things of the mind. And I thought it would be interesting to see if I could, what would the word be, conjure up somebody in front of me to help me and understand that side of things. And I did ask if anyone would come forward, and really and truly, I don't know what happened, because the next moment in my experience is it was the middle of the night and I was in bed, and I just do not have a memory of what happened, except that I have this warm, fuzzy feeling that things are going to be okay. And Gordon Smith Duran reached out to me and said, I'd love to talk to you about that. He is a spiritual therapist. He is helping people into the next phase of humanity. Now, I don't really know what that means, so let's get Gordon on the show. Hello, Gordon.
That's a really interesting title. Hello, Richard.
Well, this is what I understand from our little pre-recording conversation. So, yeah, I had this very strange experience. Since I've been looking at these various different things from the sort of government side of things and of what's coming down, from the what would you call it, the somewhat evil intent of what is coming down to humanity and things that have happened to us over the last 3 years that people will remember, and talking to people about metaphysics, about spirituality, about all that sort of stuff, and also having two parents that have died and would love to be able to talk to them, I suppose, or be assured that they're okay in whatever is the next phase. And then I had this experience and you reached out, as I said. So I'm hoping that you can explain what's going on.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've watched a lot of your videos. I've followed you really since the beginning, since I was aware of you. And it's been beautiful watching the progress and what you've done and the work you've done. And I thank you a lot on behalf of everybody.
Well, that's I mean, I'm on the journey, so if everyone's following, then it's just great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I heard you talk about this experience that you had, kind of lost time and reaching out to your guides, etc. And I thought, whoa, Richard's moving onto the spiritual path as well. so
well, I'm hoping I am, but I'm as I said, I'd never had this experience before, even though I've sort of been open to the idea and would love to connect, if that's the correct term.
Sure. Well, one of the reasons that I'm attracted to your channel and your style is because, for exactly that reason, you're not dogmatic. You're very open, but you're not tied to anything. You're willing to listen and consider, and sometimes put a view forward that you don't know if it's true or not. So that's excellent. Because we don't know the truth, do we? We don't.
No. I mean, in fact, as I go through life, the older I get, the more I realize I know nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So let me tell you a little bit about kind of where I'm coming from with this spiritual. I'm not a spiritual guide. In one of my jobs, I'm a therapist. I'm an alternative therapist. But I use hypnosis and I use a lot of alternative therapies. Initially, I started helping people with phobias. I did NLP. I don't know if you're familiar with it, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yes. I've got a vague idea of what that is.
And it's just, it's fast cures and stuff. So I was doing very, very, what you would call very 3D kind of work. You've got a phobia, I'll help you with that.
Right.
But over time, as I've progressed on my journey, I'm aware that the people I'm working with now really are coming because they're ready to move forward, not just mentally, but spiritually as well. And so that's for that reason that I tend to do a lot of work with people who are kind of at a crossroads in their life saying, where do I go now? What do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so when you say they're ready to move forward spiritually, they've got an idea that there is somewhere to move spiritually. I mean, we're not talking once they're dead. We're
No.
talking about how they perceive and behave, I suppose, in the world. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. I think where we are, right, and obviously there's this backstory that I'll need to go into, but we're in this period of the Great Awakening. Okay, and it's clear. It's everybody, everybody's kind of saying, "What the dickens is going on here?"
Yeah.
Part of the Great Awakening is what I would refer to as a return to God, right? And God, I'm using God as a word, just to, it can be anything, to spirit, to divinity, whatever you want to call it. But people are starting to very much reject religion, but return to divinity, spirit, to source, I suppose. Yeah. And so the people that come are at that juncture where they're saying, right, there must be more to life than this.
Yes.
And often they've come, as Eddie Izzard calls it, they've had an etch-a-sketch ending of their life, where the universe has said, "Oh, we'll take everything off you. Now what you're going to do about it?" And so I get a lot of people who are saying, "What shall I do? What am I here for? Why am I put on this earth?"
Yeah, I mean, that's a very strong feeling with me. What I mean, at the moment, I feel I'm doing something actually quite valuable. I used to think I was doing something valuable, but I kind of now think that was very much ego-driven. It was about wanting to be a star in something, or wanting to have something that validated me. I'm not so much, I mean, I know the channel is, and I'm getting popular, but that's not actually why I'm doing this. It's because I feel that this is very important to do it. And the few skills that I've got, I'm hoping I'm using them to best advantage.
Absolutely. And this is what I see happening to you. And it's so lovely to see your channel expanding the way it is, because what that tells me and tells everybody else is, wow, a lot of people are asking questions. A lot of people want answers. A lot of people want solutions. And it's so beautiful that you're there to be able to bring on people who have these answers and these ideas, etc. It's wonderful. So let me tell you what happened, because going back to your experience of reaching out to your guides. So 4 years ago, probably a little bit longer, I was kind of also in a crossroads of like, what am I going to do? What am I going to be, or whatever? And I got these messages, just kind of an intuition of, I've got to start meditating. Okay. Now I've done self-hypnosis for 40 years. Okay. And self-hypnosis is like kind of the sister of meditation, but it isn't meditation.
Right.
I avoided meditation because I thought that meditation, you had to have your mind still and empty. And I thought, well, that's never going to happen. Not with me, anyway.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, I sort of tried that sort of thing where you're going, and all of that, or trying to empty your mind, but it doesn't really work for me.
It's not my thing either. If you have an active mind, you have an active mind. But what happened was I thought, well, okay, I'm getting these messages, very strong messages. I will meditate. And so I just, for the first time, I sat down and it was, it was probably a crap meditation, in terms of, true people who meditate. But in that meditation, I was contacted, by something. And how I was contacted, and this was only like 10 minutes in, they started to move my head, move my body. They did it through moving my body. And I'd found that happen before in hypnosis. I would get sort of head movement, etc. But this was quite severe. This was quite strong.
So it was definitely a feeling that something external was doing this.
I didn't know.
Right.
I knew, this basically, my head was going, like this, and I was thinking, wow, that's extreme, isn't it? So I went through the usual questions, because I was accustomed to talking to my higher self through yes, no, getting messages through the body, through my unconscious mind, and through my body wisdom. So I went through, is this my higher self? Is this my unconscious mind? No. Is this my body wisdom? No. And I thought, well, okay, well, that's me. That's me done. So I said, is this something outside of me? And I got a yes, a very affirmative yes. So with yes, no questions, because I've done it for so long, you can get tremendous amounts of information just with yes, no. You know, as long as you ask the right question.
Yes. And are you asking those quietly, you know, in your head?
Yes,
or
I was doing it inside my head.
Right, yeah.
I was doing it inside my head, but the answer was external, it was physical.
Yes.
So initially that's how it started, and I just kept on asking, but then it moved to where I could start to actually, there was streaming. It wasn't, they weren't talking to me, they were giving me messages that I could understand, and they just converted into words. But so what happened was they said, right, we are light workers, and we are here because of the Great Awakening. We are kind of the administrators of the Great Awakening, okay? And we have this message, a message of great hope, and we want you to share that message, Gordon. Okay? So at that point, I was absolutely bricking it.
Yeah.
But for lots of reasons, I was thinking, am I going mad? Is this, psychosis or whatever? But I kind of rolled with it. And I said to them, so what is your name? And they said, well, our name is the Emissaries of God. Okay? That's what they said, the Emissaries of God. Now, backstory, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I was brought up in the Jehovah's Witness cult. I spent the first few years of my therapy practice helping ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who'd been damaged by a cult. And I had this YouTube channel that was really going very well. And it was for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was all about making fun of the religion, making fun of the Bible, laughing at Yahweh and the Bible and all of that. So probably people thought that I was an atheist, or at least an agnostic or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So they said, we are the emissaries of God, and we want you to give a message on our behalf. And I said, emissaries of God, do you have to be called that? And and I went into a negotiation with them, literally channeling, these light work.
I love it. Do you have to be called that?
Because I thought, I can't go to my audience and say, by the way, I've started.
Emissaries of God have just
the emissaries of God have come
Hello.
in.
Who is that?
I was really embarrassed. Above all, I was scared. I was worried about my channel. Because I've got other channels as well, and you know what YouTube's like, with cancel culture. And I thought, what am I doing here? What is this? But I kind of rolled with it, and I started giving these channeled messages from them on my channel and YouTube, and lost all of my subscribers.
Did you? Gosh.
Yeah, of course. Well, nearly all, not all.
Thanks, emissaries. Thank you, emissaries. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I was like, oh, but they just said, well, that wasn't your audience anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I can, it's funny you should say that, because when I started talking about the stuff I'm talking about, and of course the audience has now gone up to something like 150,000 subscribers.
Beautiful.
The original audience were all going, oh no, Richard, you shouldn't go down this path. Nobody's interested. We don't want to know about it. But it was obvious that people were worried. Only today I had a postal letter from a lady of 68 years in a village a few miles away, and said, I'm really frightened. I'm really frightened about what's happening and all of that. And she sent me this letter, and she was after a book, and I just sent her the book because she wanted to know how to get it. And I sent her a check back and said, look, you need the money more than I do. And so I could see that people were really worried and nervous, and I just felt that's why I do this, because I think people do want reassurance. And so absolutely. Yeah.
People want reassurance, because some people are not ready for these kind of messages, clearly. And
right.
And fair enough. Everyone's at a different stage in their progress. I wasn't ready for those kind of messages.
Right.
It was a bit of a shock to me. Up to that point, I used to watch the odd channeling, and I used to look at them and think, you're just making that up. You're just making it up. I could do that. And then suddenly here I was faced with this job of doing it. initially I started to channel, like record myself channeling them. But over time, I realized that it was better if I actually, rather in your style, if I presented their message in a bit more kind of, upbeat, fun way,
So what kind of messages were you asked right at the beginning? When it first happened, what sort of message were you presenting the audience that suddenly leapt in their cars and drove the opposite way?
Okay, well, the message was, and it's never changed. The beautiful thing about this message, it has never changed. The message is, we are in the Great Awakening. There is no turning back. This is a battle between good and evil. And it's a battle that we have all chosen to witness. We're here to witness this battle. And it's a battle that has happened many, 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 many times before. And so what their message is that no matter what happens, there is only one outcome with this. And the outcome is that good will out. Because that's the plan. That's how it's set out. It's almost like as though we're playing a kind of a staged game.
Right.
We come down to experiences. We forget everything, and we think, I'm here for the first time. And it's because we must experience this. We've chosen to. But their message is, it's going to be okay. But it's going to be tough. So initially they came and they said, everything's okay. However, be prepared. Because this is a battle of good against evil. And they always say that, because I'd say, oh man, look what they've done, this, and they say, because they call them the baddies. I call them the baddies and the goodies, just to take the edge off a bit, And they say, what do you expect from the baddies? Do you expect them to do good things? They're here. Their job is to do bad stuff. Don't expect any more than bad from them. Why are you surprised,
Right. Okay. I mean, I suppose you could argue that they're not, they could be a hell of a lot badder.
Yeah. Well, have you noticed, and this is something I'm kind of learning myself as well. We've all come through these mad 3 years.
Yes.
And there've been times when we've been very scared. I was very scared at some points. I was not scared for me. I was scared for my family. What the potential was. But if you notice that how the baddies work is by way of fear. It isn't doing, it's threatening the doing.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's how they control. There are only two things in this world, fear or love, two sides of the same pendulum. And we can either be in fear or we can be in love. They want to keep us in fear because when we're in fear, we can't create, and we are creators. We all have the capacity to create our lives and beautiful things. So if we're in fear, we can't create. If we're in fear, we are very easily controlled, very easily controlled.
And we saw that most definitely.
Goodness, didn't we just? Yeah. And also when we're in fear, we kind of, it's like a wounded animal. A wounded animal is dangerous. We're not very good when we're fearful. We don't unite. We tend to fight between ourselves. And so that's their objective is always to keep us in fear. And their objective, the objective of the baddies, the message is they want to stop the Great Awakening. They want to erase the Great Awakening. And they're doing it in various ways, the things that they're doing perhaps in the sky, to change energies, etc. Their job is to stop it. The goodies' job is to make sure it happens. But the assurance is that it's going to happen. It can't go back.
Right.
Yeah. So that's their message. And it's always been their message. Obviously, there are lots of things to say, but that's the key thing.
Yes. Wow. So let me ask you this then. I had this experience, and as I explained, it's sort of a bit fuzzy and one's tentative whether it really happened or not. Can one get in touch with whoever it is, the spirits, the messengers of the source or the source itself?
Absolutely. I've asked a number of times with how many people are you working with at the moment? And they're working with many, 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 uncountable.
Mm.
What they say is to work with them based on their paradigm, the paradigm that they hold in their head. So if people are very, very spiritual, then it might be light workers. If people are atheists, it might be light bulb moments. If people are more religious, it might be angels, or that kind of thing.
Right.
What they said is that now the veil has never been thinner, because the vibration of the earth is increasing. It's constantly increasing. The veil is thinning, and so they're able to contact us much more easily. And they do it in many different ways, but mostly through these, what everyone's calling, I don't know if you've heard people talking about downloads. They say, I've got a download.
Right. Okay.
And when you talked about the feeling that you had the next day,
Yes.
for me, it was, Richard received his download. And it's like an upgrade. They call it download, but it's really an upgrade.
Oh, I've had an upgrade, ladies and gentlemen.
You've had
Thank you
an
very much.
Absolutely, yeah, vibrating on a new level. And so what they're saying is that all that we need do, years ago when we were in the heavy, dark part, to meditate, we had to spend many hours meditating. That's what meditation has such a bad rap, because it took ages to get there. Now, very small amounts of meditation can allow you to contact. All that you need to do two things is, one is to set the intention, yeah, and the other one is to surrender to it, to surrender yourself.
So just give me an example of the intent. The intention is to...
Right, so very much like you did. All right,
Yeah.
I intend to connect.
Right.
Yeah, so you set the intention.
Yeah.
Set the intention before you go, you start to relax. And then all you need to do in meditation is literally sit. Don't worry about what goes through your mind, but just focus just on your breathing and just focus on calming, and then let it happen. What they're saying is they're chomping at the bit to get to people.
Right.
But what's happening is, and this is one of the causes, we never have a moment. We never slow down.
And that is so true. I absolutely. I find myself, and I know this, and I've said it in blooming videos. We need to throw sodding things away. It's very difficult when you're running a YouTube channel and everybody wants to contact you, of course. But you're right, because in the end, it goes quiet in the house, and you suddenly, before you know it, you're stuck on another YouTube video. It's that bald bloke with glasses telling you some monologue or something. And this is the thing. It is moving away from that and having stillness. I agree there.
Yeah. And I think there's this right. So I'm referring to the baddies and the goodies, okay? Just as a group, but but the baddies know fine well that they have to stop us from moving into silence, to having these silent moments.
Yes.
If you notice, but with this now, we used to go to the toilet, and that used to be a silent moment.
Oh, I know people do, and I do know. I try not to do that.
Yeah,
I do try not to do that. I do. I'd much rather take a book.
Absolutely, yeah. But in the shower now, they've even brought out shower covers for the phone, so you can go in the shower and have your phone there.
Yeah.
And I used to get tremendous insights in the shower, because it's a moment where it's stillness, and you
For me, the bath.
There you are.
You turn over, you're in the bath, and that's when I get those eureka moments, and you
Absolutely.
go, oh, there's a good idea.
Yeah.
There's my, and I might have, in fact, is a secret. I'll reveal a secret. On some occasions, I've been in the bath, and it's come to me, the monologue for the next video, and the phone is there, but I'm not using it.
Yeah.
And I'll send a WhatsApp message to my partner, the lovely Julia, and I will do it. I will just do it. And usually it's much better when I've done it in the bath and I'm sitting there going, I wonder why such and such, and I'll record that, send it to her, and she'll say, that's brilliant, Richard. You should do that tomorrow. And I said, oh, well, that's it. And I can listen back before I record it the next day and put it up. So yeah, for me, that quiet moment, which is, it's just that moment where you're in the bath because you're contained by water, and I've chosen not to do it. But you're so right that we don't just go and sit down and do nothing. There's always 101 things to do. Yeah. Which keeps us busy. And so I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, and probably quite a bit of it on purpose, to keep us busy, to keep us occupied. What I suggest, if meditation's not your thing, you don't need to. You can go for a walk into the country, and that's as good as anything. I do most of my meditation when I'm running, when I'm jogging.
Right.
I get so centered because there's nothing else.
Yeah.
So it's whatever. But what they say is that you get they've made a promise. They said, get yourself into a good place and we'll come. Just ask for us to come.
Right. Right. Yeah. So once I revealed that this had happened to me in the monologue or wherever it was I said it, I had a lot of people, I mean, at least 10, so that's not a lot, but on emails of people telling me, Richard, don't go down this path. You are inviting entities into your head who are working for the devil.
Right.
And then I would get a lot of, and now these people may well be watching, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I would get a lot of what I would call Woolworth's pick and mix excerpts from the Bible. It says, well, John so-and-so, so one, and then there'll be another one that backs it up. And when I saw that stuff, I thought to myself, that does look like pick and mix to emphasize a point. And again, I'm not trying to those people who are watching who may have sent me that or think like that, I'm not trying to insult you or have a go at your religion or anything, but I felt that it was like, somebody saying you mustn't follow a path that seemed don't go open in that door because it's too dangerous. And yet, surely that's for me to make up my mind if that's dangerous or not. But so what do you say to people who saying, "Oh no, don't let the spirits in"?
Okay, and it's a very valid point because I work in hypnosis, and one of the things that I do is past life regression and higher self work and all of that. And of course, if you believe firmly in the Bible, then hypnosis is a no-no. You can't do hypnosis because you're opening yourself up to demons, etc. Also, people in my line of work, there's a lot of people who do entity removal. That's what they do in hypnosis, would you believe? Which is kind of a oxymoron, isn't it? A contradiction of terms. But it's never really been something that interests me. It's fine, that's lovely that people do that. What I do is, and I've always done this, I protect myself with an intention. Intention is everything. I quote from the Bible a lot because I think the Bible is a wonderful book. I wouldn't quote everything from it because there's some dodgy bits in there, but there's some nice bits. And one of the parts is, in the beginning was the Word, okay? And the Word was what created. And lots of science is kind of backing that up. That sound is the actual creation, and they talk about lifting the pyramids with sound and all of that. But so I believe that our words are very powerful, very powerful. Let me give you an example, just because I said to the beginning to the emissary, I said, I haven't got an audience I've got a small audience. What can I do? The message won't make a difference. And they said, it isn't who listens to the message, it's the speaking of the message that gives it power. Right? That's what they said. It's the vocalizing of the message. So what I do is I just say, I do this for the highest good of all concerned. That's my protection. After that, I've never had any problems, never, ever. And I've never had any bad stuff coming to me. The message has always been beautiful and very spiritual and very divine. But, we can protect ourselves with those words, for the highest good. That's it. They can't touch it.
Right. Oh, fascinating.
Very woo-woo. We're in the woo-woo world here.
Well, this is, to people who are perhaps new to this, you obviously you must get a lot of skeptics, as you said, your audience disappeared. But sometimes you can have a skeptic who appears not to be there and is peeking back because they're intrigued, and slowly, like a cat, a cat will run away from something initially because of the loud noise, but it is intrigued and it will slowly come back. So I imagine that there are a lot of people who say, on the face of it, if anyone's looking, no, I'm not interested in this stuff. But in the privacy of their own world, they will perhaps come in and go, actually, I want to know a bit more. Do you find that?
Yeah. I think what I see, I mean, right, my audience is just the most spiritual. On my YouTube channel, The Peaceful Rebellion, it's the most spiritual group ever. The healers, energy healers, everything like that. But what I'm aware of is that there's this leaning, this turning of attention away. When the secular world and the world of politics and government, I mean, we are just fed up with it. People are just sick of it. I mean, it's ruined, it's broken, and it's collapsing. And it's kind of leaving people in this limbo of what's next? Where to go from here? They know that religion's not what they want. Some people are going back to religion, but not many. But they're all getting, the people that talk to me are getting this feeling of being drawn toward something more spiritual. There's got to be more to this than this.
Yes.
And hence you sitting on the edge of the bed saying, hey, well, look, if my guides are here, come and talk to me.
Yeah.
Would you have said that 20 years ago? Would I be talking to a group of light workers 20 years ago? Absolutely not. So there's something shifting, and it's making people, I'll tell people, I mean, you choose who you tell, obviously, but I'll tell people, and they kind of go, really? Like with a face of, oh dear. But then after they're fine with it, they're fine with so what do your guides say about such and such, and what are they saying about such and such,
So how much can you talk to the guides about other things other than here is the message? Can you ask them questions? Can you get insights into things? Perhaps not those things like what are the lottery numbers and things like that, but more about what the future is.
This is a great question, because there are lots of people who channel and get such details. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, there's going to be such and such,
Oh, really?
Generally, they don't come true.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Generally.
Yeah.
And so my guides, I've asked, I wanted to know the nitty gritty, what about this political group? Are they going to get into power? What about the elections? They will never go into what we would call 3D information.
Right.
All what they do is they say that they read the energetic signatures rather than getting into the details. And what they say is this: we're in this constant battle between good and evil, and it's a fluid battle. So what happens is, if you read the energies now and say, right, so I'm reading the energies, so this next week this is going to happen, that's going to happen on the timeline, then something shifts and all of that changes. And that's why I think a lot of people who channel and they get it wrong, it's not because they're wrong in that moment. It's because we're in a fluid game.
Right. Yeah. So if the baddies have a plan, and then for whatever reason they say, well, actually, we're going to pull that now, even though the goodies may have got wind of it in some spiritual sense, it doesn't happen because it's like a chess game. Is that
exactly what you mean? That's exactly a good analogy. It's like a chess game, so it's always changing.
Right.
I don't know if you heard tell of the Looking Glass project. I don't know if you heard tell of it. Was it in the 60s or the 70s?
The name rings a vague bell, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
Well, what happened was they had this machine that could look into the future. Right, this is all kind of, again, in the woo-woo world, but there are such a lot of things that are coming true. The Manhattan Project, it was true. So the Looking Glass project was that they could look ahead and they could project scenarios into the future and see what that would do. Okay. And would you believe that it was the baddies who had the machine? So what they would do is they would project. You couldn't make it up, could you?
No, of course they've got the machine.
So they were projecting scenarios of all the things that they could do, all the bad stuff. Yeah. Every scenario that they projected turned out to be perfect for them. Everything worked out. Every scenario was going to end up there. We're going to prevail. So they kind of said, okay, that's fine. And we don't need to do it. We'll just keep doing what we're doing, And so what happened was that then later on, when they looked again, everything had changed. And what it was at the time, with the negative intention that they had and where we were energetically, of course, everything looked bad.
Mm.
But the energy's changed, the signature's changed now. And so what's happening is the good is prevailing. You know, we've moved from the dark ages where we didn't see anything. We didn't know what was happening with all the politicians in the past and all that bad stuff. We thought they were really great people. And then you discover. But now we know, because it's almost like the rock has been lifted and we see all the bugs and the horrible stuff below, you know?
Yeah.
So we're just in a different energy. We're in a different time. And it's our time now. Really, it's our time. They're on the arse. Aren't they? I mean, there couldn't be any more on the arse. I mean, they're being everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. And is that why everything's being thrown at us all at once? You know, it's like with the digital IDs and all these different things. It is almost as if the ogre's going, this game is, it's like the person who's had a game of chess or whatever, and it's just gone, and they've just upset the whole thing. And all the pieces are flying as if all their projects, they're just going, just throw it. Something's got to hit the fan.
Absolutely. If I understand it rightly, they had a plan to 2050. Because they're really, they're fine with long-term plans. They've got no hurry. Fine. And then they realized what they became aware of was, hang on a minute, the Great Awakening is happening, and it's starting to happen. It shouldn't happen. And so they had to bring it forward to 2030. Yeah. And then they saw, hang on a minute, that's not going to be quick enough. And then they brought it to 2022 in a big way. Or 2020, I should say.
Yeah.
And now what they're trying to do is they're trying to compress a 40-year plan or a 30-year plan in years, in almost in a year.
Yeah.
Things that they're bringing in, and even the sleeping people, the people who aren't awake to this, are like going, "What? WTF? What?
Yeah.
What on earth?"
Yeah, I think that's what's waking people up as well, because there is never have we gone through a time in which particularly stuff coming through the government, in which the governments have so blatantly pushed things through that nobody's asked for, and that they are doubling down on things like the great intervention that we've had, and Andrew Bridgen will stand up and everybody runs for the hills. Nobody must listen to that. And even though you only have to look a tiny away from mainstream media, or just a little bit from the House of Commons, and you can see the deaths and the sadness from people who were manipulated and mandated, and yet the government have just, they put the balaclavas round the wrong way so they can't see anything, and they put on the bedtime earmuffs on so they can't hear anything, and everyone's going, we know what's happening, why won't you address it? And they go, no, nothing to see, nothing to hear, it's all fine, and we're going to go with these things you don't want. And so I think that people are beginning to, more and more people who might not have woken up are going, it is a bit weird, isn't it? Even at the, just that, some people are clearly going, it is a bit weird.
Absolutely. I've often said in my videos that the baddies are doing a far better job at waking people up than the
yeah
They're
absolutely.
I mean, they couldn't have done a better job during the last 3 years. It was like, wow, we were few. I kind of was woken up 20 years ago now by this interesting video about the 9/11. Somebody put it through my door and I watched it. I went, with my wife, we went, oh my goodness. So we've had loads of time to be able to assimilate all of this, and kind of terms with it. But some poor souls, like just during the last 3 years, have had to assimilate so much information. Bless them. It must be on overload.
Well, I know from my own experience going through, and you get to a point where you're watching all these videos, and the fear in your stomach, you walk away from the computer having watched all this stuff, and you're thinking, blimey, and you're visibly shaking, going, well, we're all dead, aren't we? This is it. It's the end. But you kind of get to the pit of it, and clearly there is more and perhaps more graphic if you wanted it. But I got to that point where I go, okay, I don't really need to see the rest. I don't actually need to see it. I understand it and I can hold it in my head, but I don't need to witness any of it. And now I feel that I'm on the upward journey, and it's about finding solutions and giving people hope and talking about that. And it's funny, that sort of almost coincides, I guess, with that weird experience. So maybe that's connected. So can you tell us then what, because I said, you're helping people to the next phase of humanity. What is this next phase of humanity?
Fantastic. So we're moving into the what you would call, I don't know, you call it anything you like, new age, paradise, into the light. But there's not a line that we're going to cross where we're going to go into the light. It's a progressive thing. The light gradually gets brighter. And so what's happening, we're in the Great Awakening. Now, the Great Awakening has a window. As the Great Awakening happens, and this is happening now, we then move into what's called the Great Healing. What is the Great Healing? The Great Healing is where everybody has to go through loss, where they have to lose. It's basically, we're going through a process of loss. The process of loss is denial. Oh, it can't be true. If you lose your keys, not true. I can't have lost my keys. And then you realize you have lost your keys. And then you go into sadness and depression and anger. Yeah. And then once you get through that, you get into acceptance. Okay, all right, okay, it happened. Let's get on. And then it's forgiveness and then acceptance. So what we're about to go through the Great Healing, which is people are going to be so angry about how they've been fooled, how they haven't seen it. Because remember, we've been through, especially, I watched a video the other day, Richard, of a lady who said, I went to see my jabby friends. Yeah. And she said, they ignored me during those years. They cut me off. And she said, they're all awake now. And they're all extremely sorry because, they've got partners who are ill. They've got illnesses and everything. And this is where we're going to be. This tremendous remorse. And we, our job is to help them through that. Not to let them, not to point the finger and say, told you so. That's not going to work.
It's very interesting you say that. And I've said this a couple of times, but I'll repeat it again. I made a video a couple of months ago saying we have to allow these people to save face, because we're all on the same side. Firstly, we've all been duped. Some of us, by hook or by crook or by good guidance or what, didn't take the medical intervention, or saw through it, or tried to help people who were debating whether or not. And we've all suffered the slings and arrows of the righteous people, but they were duped too. And so much so that they went through with it. And my video was really to say, look, when these people do wake up, they need us, not to say, haha, told you, as you just so rightly said, but to actually embrace them and say, it's fine. That's over. We've got, it's these people who did it to us. We want to make them no more part of our lives, and we've got to carry on somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. I use the analogy of the fisherman and the fish. The fisherman puts the perfect bait on the hook, throws the hook in, and the fish bite. You don't blame the fish.
No.
Stupid fish. No, it's the fisherman who's got the responsibility,
Yeah.
And they were very good fishermen. Boy,
trouble is the fisherman does eat the fish at the end of the day.
No. Goodness. No. So one of the things I wanted to mention was that one of the ways of helping ourselves to go forward, and all it is, it's what you might call ascension. We're basically ascending as beings. We're kind of evolving from dark to light. And one of the messages that I got was from the emissaries was, they said, you've got to do a course. You've got to do a course. And it's called the Ego Ascension Course. And basically it's to help, because you mentioned ego before, it's to help us to lift the ego. Because, we talk about killing the ego. We hate the ego. The ego is evil. No wonder it's, misbehaving itself. But actually what we need to do is elevate it so that it begins to work for us, because it's part of us. It isn't, we can't get rid of it. We can silence it, but it's part of us. So what happened was I developed, they give me this course. They downloaded a course to me. So I ran the course with some beautiful people, and I offered the course freely, or with if people want to give a donation, fine. But anybody who wants the course, and it's like a 2-day, it's about 6 hours where you learn how to elevate your ego, then I'm very happy to send people. All they need to do is send me an email and I'll send it to them.
Oh, right. So just give us an insight then into a little bit of what that means when you say elevate the ego.
Okay. So the ego, right. So what I was told, I didn't, the emissaries told me this. They said the ego was placed there as a governor in the Dark Ages. A governor, as in, the governors you have in motors to stop them from going too many revs. And it was to stop mankind from elevating, because we're in the Dark Ages, we have to stay in that place. But now it's done its job, and now we need to ascend the ego so that it helps us on the next part of the journey.
Right.
The old ego, what does the old ego want? The old ego wants us to be better than everybody else.
Yeah, the me.
The me. But the old ego looks at everything in terms of themselves. So if somebody's successful, the ego says, how dare they be successful? What does that mean about me?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, as in a very colloquial fashion, the old ego says, I'm wonderful and everybody else is a twat. Yeah. That's where it is.
Yeah.
The ego ascension is where the ego then starts to help us to be better. You see, the ego wants us to be the best, but if we're not, it gives us a really hard time. It makes us feel bad, and it doesn't help us on our road. We want it to actually be able to inspire us and help us and guide us and give us support, because we've got this voice that goes, why did you do it as good as him? You're not as good as him. You should be better than him. And all of that, it doesn't help us at all. So it's kind of like what they're saying is, for us to move to the next stage, we must elevate our ego. We must get out of that darkness.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a 2-day course.
Yeah.
You do at home on your own?
It's actually, I've recorded it. We recorded it. And so it's not edited yet. I'm going to do that in the future, but it would just be a raw recording with the worksheet as well. And then they can try it on their friends and family. You get some processes,
Yeah. So you sort of get homework and go off and do. Yeah.
It'd just be nice, and then some people might find it valuable.
Yeah. Well, you give me the URL so that I can put it in the description, and people, I'm sure you'll get inundated.
Well, I'll send you it so you can put it in the description of the video, and then download it straight away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just go back to the next phase of humanity and the ascension. Is that for us in this lifetime or in a future life that we may or may not live?
Okay, so in this lifetime, so I was talking about there isn't a demarcation line of dark light.
Yeah.
Progression. It's like, to give an analogy, the sun coming up. So we've been where the sun hasn't come up, but it's starting to get light.
Right.
See, and that's
like the dawn. We're at the sort of dawn.
Absolutely, and hence the fact that it's called the revelation. And this is the reference to the Bible.
Right.
Revelation. Now, people talk about that being dreadful, Armageddon, the tribulation and everything. We're in it, and we're in the revelation. So what's happening is now, according to knowledgeable astrologers, we actually shifted into the age of light on the 15th of December last year. It's pretty clear that we have, because everything is being revealed. You can't keep up with how many things are being revealed. It's just like, it's too much. And so that's going to progress. So it's going to get gradually lighter. But the next stage, and this is something that I talked about recently, when we push against something, we give it energy. What we resist persists. And so what we've been doing up to now, and rightly so, is pushing against. But there's a new shift especially in the people in our group, which is, and this is what the emissaries taught me right at the beginning: turn your face away from badness. Turn your face away from badness. I kept repeating it. I didn't quite understand, but now I do. Which is, now our turn is just that, the power of no, but not no, the power of no, thank you. Thanks very much, but no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and do my stuff now. And, you know, I've been watching your videos of organic farmers getting together. The grassroots groups now are just everywhere. The same group in Spain, the organic farmers. But what's happening is that we are going to turn our backs on the establishment.
Yeah.
And just get on with our lives and get on with organizing ourselves. And the emissaries have said to me, in the long term, we are going to be autonomous groups, self-governing autonomous groups. There's going to be something, but we are going to govern community. We are going to have our own communities. And I see it happening. How long it'll take, I don't know.
No.
I see that happening, this intention of, oh, sod them.
Yeah.
But they've got nothing.
Yeah. And it's a very peaceful turning away. That's the, I mean, you're literally just going, whatever, I'm over here now, you know, and we're taking back. I mean, I found myself saying all this stuff, and you know, maybe this is the influence coming through me that I didn't expect, but I'm finding myself saying, you know, taking back the responsibility, getting up and doing stuff for ourselves and with our fellow man, and not being so dependent on the mother or the father state to do everything for us. That, you know, there's a pothole in the road, why don't we just bloody well fill it and get on with it? Because they don't seem to want to bother. Exactly. I don't know what it's like in Spain, but we've got potholes everywhere.
Nobody doing anything. Yeah.
So this is really fascinating, interesting. I want to just take you back, because right at the beginning, you talked about your hypnotism, and then you talked about higher self stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I have in the past dabbled with a bit of hypnosis. My dad used to do a bit, and I learned a little bit from him. And I've read books about it in the long distance past, and I practiced a bit of it with people to cure people, well, to take pain away when people were in pain, to try and help them stop smoking. But I did do a few post hypnotic suggestion stuff, making people say things that they didn't, nothing very harmless, because I didn't want to do anything that was going to be dangerous. And I did do some regression with a chap who had past lives. But your higher self stuff is a new term to me. So could you explain that?
Okay. So when we're in hypnosis, obviously we can access a lot more of our mind and our information than we can in the waking state. So what we do is that we help people into, and typically I mean, I can do higher self separately, but typically I'll combine it with a past life regression. So you get somebody and they go off to the past life. So already they're way out of their own body in past life. And then it's just a matter of through suggestion, you take them up into the higher planes to talk to the higher self. So the idea of the higher self is, it's the part of you that remains on the other side that helps you. Sometimes it's not allowed to get involved, and most times it's not allowed to get involved, but it is allowed to guide, etc. And, you know, many people who talk about, I just had this little message and I don't know where it came from, I heard a voice or whatever, you know, typically it's attributed to the higher self. And so what we do is we take people up to the higher self, and they have a conversation with the higher self in hypnosis, and it's very beautiful. But the higher self, what I've learned is it how can I say it? It doesn't suffer fools gladly. It won't answer frivolous questions. You know, it's quite a serious body, and so and it'll only answer questions about you. You know, some people, I've had people saying, "What about my next door neighbor? You know, is he stealing my tomatoes?" You know, that's not where it goes. It's an expert on you, and so what it can do, it can tell you your purpose. It can tell you, you know, why you're here, things like that. And it can tell you a lot about yourself, where you need to go, stuff like that. So it's a very beautiful experience. but it can be, I mean, it's a very emotional experience for many people, you know, lots of tears because they feel this incredible love, you know, unconditional love, because it's part of us. So it's a very beautiful, I do that, and sometimes do the in between lives. I don't know if you've heard of that, where you take people into the place in between the two lives.
Oh, right.
Where they're making decisions about the next life and stuff, if you believe that sort of thing, obviously. And that's always fascinating, you know, because they meet up with the soul groups and everything. So yeah.
Wow.
It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to investigate more. So you have your own YouTube channel?
Yes, called Peaceful Rebellion.
Peaceful Rebellion. I'll go and put a link in the description as well. And so people can find you more. Do you do your therapy remotely over Zoom and things like that, or is it face to face?
99% of the time I do it over Zoom. I am quite busy
right
at the moment, because I only do therapy on a part-time basis. However, I have been training. We've been running, because I've been told I've got to train other people. So we've been training so I've got a nice team of people who also do the same thing, you know, so it's nice.
Yes. So if people are interested in that and want to contact you, they can they contact you through your website or your
through my website. I've got a website called the Hypnosis Academy, but I'll give you the email and they can contact me with the email.
Right.
I can put them in touch with a therapist who would be willing, you know, if they wanted to have a past life regression or higher self work or whatever. Yeah.
And of course, once you and your course that you were telling us about,
and I'll give you the course so people can download that. Obviously, you know, you don't need to be a hypnotherapist to do this course, but there are some processes that you need to learn. Yeah.
Brilliant. Gordon, it's really been fascinating to talk to you. Do you think that if I sit down and meditate now, that I have the possibility of having a bit more interaction with the spiritual guides?
Well, personally, I think that you are already extremely connected.
Oh, right.
Because of the way that I see your work evolving, you were being guided, Richard. In my opinion, you're being guided. This isn't happening by accident.
Right.
But to formally get in touch, I think you're a hop, skip, and a jump. It's already happened once. And they do tend to, when they come through at the beginning, they tend to download. I remember at the beginning, I was getting downloads that were making me dizzy. I was losing time. This is why what you said stood out to me.
Right.
I didn't know if I was asleep or awake. So it's already started to happen. So I think you just a little bit of set the intention, go in, you know, protect yourself, go in with an open mind, and why not?
Yeah, why not?
A bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant stuff. So nothing to be afraid of.
No, I think we all need to move toward this, not move away from it.
Yeah. I mean, I meant from the audience perspective, some people clearly will be skeptical and will be going, "Oh, this sounds a bit barking," and other people will be sort of perhaps in the same situation that I'm in, or want to be in that situation where they feel there's something but they don't know what, and they're looking. And
just as an offer, Richard, if you wanted to, I'd be very willing to take you through higher self, you know, past life regression, higher self in hypnosis if you wanted sometime. When I know you're a busy man, but if you want,
that would be it. My dad used to try to do it to me, but because I was quite analytical, I would be listening, going, "Oh, he's doing this and he's trying this," and it was very difficult to sort of relax and just go with it. So I'm not quite sure what a good subject I am, but you know, I'm happy to give it a go.
Yeah, why not?
Well, Gordon, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and we'll put all the links in the description. And I'll be interested to see the comments and, of course, the never-ending flow of emails that come after interesting interviews to see what people think. And also the various warnings I might get from people saying, "No, Richard, be careful," what have you. That you're all welcome to send your opinion. So, you know, I try not to put people off, even though I can't always correspond back because there's just so many of them. But brilliant. Thank you so much for reaching out, Gordon. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Richard, and thank you for everything that you do. I think everybody appreciates all of the work that you do.
Well, you're an absolute star for saying so. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. What do you make of that? It's absolutely fascinating. The next phase of humanity, something clearly to look forward to and not to be frightened of. I am fascinated to see it all unfold. So there we go. From Gordon and I, thank you so much. I'll be back again with more interviews and monologues and all of that. But for the meantime, till next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.